Usually when we look at a piece of everyday graphic design, we kind of expect this instant, functional clarity.
Right, like a quick hit of information.
Exactly. I mean, think about a stop sign. You see that red octagon, the bold white letters, and the message just enters your brain. You don't even have to process it.
Yeah, it's basically binary.
Right. It's this visual shorthand designed specifically to reduce your cognitive load so you can, just move on with your day.
And we totally rely on that shorthand.
Mm.
I mean, the world is just too complex to deeply parse every single visual cue we come across.
Oh, for sure.
So we crave design that kind of does the thinking for us. We want clear boundaries. We want instructions.
But then, every once in a while, you encounter an artifact that just actively resists that kind of easy categorization.
Oh, absolutely. The ones that make you stop in your tracks.
Yeah. An object that uses visual language not to give you an instruction, but to, trap you in a philosophical puzzle. And today's deep dive is entirely focused on one single image that does exactly that.
It's a really fascinating one, too.
It really is. So, just to give you an idea of what we're doing today, we aren't looking at a stack of research papers or some massive data set. We are decoding the cover of a single book.
Just the cover.
Just the cover. It's for a book called Escape from Freedom by Erich Fromm.
Which I have to say, a book cover is an incredibly demanding medium for a designer.
Oh, I bet.
I mean, you have a split second to arrest the viewer's attention.
Yeah.
You have to synthesize the absolute core, like the beating heart of a really complex argument into a single glance.
And this specific cover is attempting to communicate something deeply unsettling about human nature.
Yeah. And it's doing it using only a title, a background texture, and one short quote.
It's wild. So the mission for this deep dive is to prove that sometimes the most profound insights don't actually require hundreds of pages of reading.
Right.
If we just carefully unpack the visual and textual elements on this single rectangle of cardboard, we can extract an entire diagnosis of human vulnerability.
Which is quite the claim, but I think it holds up.
I think so, too. So let's just start with the text right in the center of the cover. The title itself is this massive cognitive roadblock.
Oh, completely. Escape from Freedom.
Right. Escape from Freedom.
It forces a hard stop because it totally subverts the foundational myth of almost every modern society.
Yeah.
I mean, we are conditioned from birth to view freedom as the ultimate human triumph. It's the finish line, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Freedom is supposed to be the thing you escape to.
Right.
You break out of the cage, you throw off the chains, and you achieve this state of grace called freedom. So to say escape from freedom creates this fundamental contradiction.
It frames liberation as the actual threat.
Yes. And I was trying to map this onto a real-world scenario to make sense of it, and the closest I could get is the psychology of winning a massive lottery jackpot.
Oh, that's an interesting way to look at it.
Well, imagine someone who has lived their entire life with very strict financial limitations. Their daily routine, their goals, their entire worldview are just structured around the struggle to simply pay the rent.
Yeah, the parameters of their life, while obviously difficult, are entirely defined.
Exactly.
They know exactly what they're fighting against every single day.
But then they win $1 billion.
Wow.
Suddenly the cage is just gone. Escaping a life of restriction and having absolute financial freedom sounds like the dream, right?
Of course. That's what everyone says they want.
But this title implies a completely different reaction. It implies that the money hits the bank account, the person stares at this limitless horizon of possibility, and the very next day they are begging the lottery commission to take the money back.
Right, because the moment that cage disappears, the sudden lack of boundaries creates this profound psychological vertigo.
Vertigo is the perfect word for it.
Yeah, we always talk about the concept of freedom, but we very rarely examine the actual mechanics of it.
What do you mean by the mechanics?
Well, think about what absolute freedom actually requires of a human being on a daily basis. If there is no external authority dictating your choices, right, and no economic cage forcing your hand, no societal script telling you how to live, then who is responsible for the outcome of your life?
You are. Entirely you.
Exactly. Every single outcome rests entirely on your own shoulders.
And carrying that complete responsibility feels less like a wide open field and more like a terrifying void.
Yes. When you have no structure, you have no anchor. Every choice you make carries the absolute weight of consequence.
Oh, man, yeah.
If you fail, there is no system to blame, there's no boss to resent, no predetermined fate to curse. It's entirely on you.
Which is heavy.
It is. So the title Escape from Freedom suggests that this state of ultimate liberation isn't joyful at all. It's actually accompanied by an immense, almost crushing existential anxiety.
That reframes the entire concept of choice for me. I mean, we think we want infinite choices, but the cognitive reality of infinite choice is just paralysis.
Absolute paralysis.
So if freedom is this void of direction, then human instinct is going to kick in. When we are faced with a terrifying void, our biological imperative isn't to just stand there and admire the view.
No, not at all.
Our instinct is to seek shelter.
We want to flee the void.
Mm-hmm.
So the title establishes the core psychological mechanism at play here. Human beings possess this deep, often unacknowledged desire to run away from the terrifying responsibility of individual autonomy.
Wow.
We just find the burden of our own freedom too heavy to carry.
Which introduces the next logical question and really the next piece of this visual puzzle.
Mm-hmm.
If freedom is a burden that causes us this much anxiety and we desperately want to escape it, where do we run?
Right. What does that escape actually look like in practice?
Exactly. And the cover doesn't just leave that question hanging. It answers it through the background artwork.
Yeah, the transition from the paradoxical text to the visual imagery is where the designer maps out the actual mechanism of this escape.
Let's look at the composition of it. The title, Escape from Freedom, sits inside this bright, rigid, highly structured blue box right in the center of the cover.
Right. Very clean lines.
But surrounding that box, bleeding off the edges of the entire cover, is this chaotic, overlapping mass of silhouettes.
It's so striking.
It really is. It's a sea of arms and hands reaching out, illustrated in these stark, harsh blacks and muted, almost sickly gold tones.
It completely lacks the clean, binary simplicity of the stop sign we talked about earlier.
Oh, totally.
It's deeply unsettling to look at because it's entirely devoid of order.
Yeah, it evokes an immediate, visceral, physical reaction. I was looking at it, analyzing the mechanics of it, and it perfectly captures the absolute worst sensation of being trapped in a suffocating mosh pit at a crowded concert.
Oh, that is a terrifying feeling.
It is. There is a specific moment in a massive crowd surge where the pressure becomes so intense that your feet actually leave the ground.
Oh, yeah.
You aren't walking anymore. You are simply being carried by the momentum of the mass.
Because your physical autonomy is completely neutralized.
Right.
You are no longer navigating the space. Or are they a chaotic mob blindly grasping for anything solid to hold on to?
Exactly.
And the brilliance of the design is that it's both. The mosh pit analogy translates perfectly to the psychological escape you're talking about.
How so?
Well, look at the specific duality of the artwork. When you examine that sea of black and gold hands, notice what is intentionally missing from the composition.
Well, there are absolutely no faces.
Right.
There are no defining characteristics at all. It's just limbs.
Exactly. You are looking at a crowd of completely indistinguishable shapes. There is a total surrender of the individual self.
Wow.
When the burden of individual freedom, that crushing responsibility and isolation we just discussed, when that becomes too heavy to bear, the easiest way to escape it is to blend into a chaotic, directionless mass.
Because if you give up your individuality to become part of a mob, the mob absorbs the burden of choice.
Precisely.
I mean, a crowd doesn't make individual nuanced decisions. A crowd operates on collective momentum.
It operates on impulse and collective identity.
Yeah.
The artwork is visualizing the paradox of the title right there. The hands aren't cheering. They are grasping.
Right. They look desperate.
Very desperate. When individuals flee the anxiety of their own freedom, they actively seek out an external authority to take it away from them.
That makes so much sense.
They want a strong man, a rigid ideology, or simply the comforting anonymity of a collective group to just absorb their identity.
It's the psychological equivalent of letting your feet lift off the floor in that mosh pit.
Yes.
Like, yes, it's dangerous, but there is a perverse kind of relief in it.
Absolutely.
If someone else is pulling the strings, or if you are just following the surge of the crowd, you are no longer responsible for your own direction. The crushing anxiety of the void is just gone.
You've traded your freedom for the illusion of security.
Wow.
And notice how the hands are oriented in the design. They're all grasping toward the center.
Oh, toward the text box.
Exactly. They are reaching toward that rigid, highly structured blue box containing the title. The box acts as the visual representation of the authoritarian structure.
Right.
Or that absolute certainty that the chaotic mob is desperately reaching for to give them order.
That makes the visual so much more ominous.
It really does.
It's not a picture of victimization where people are having their freedom stolen from them. It's a picture of voluntary surrender.
Yes.
The hands are actively reaching out, asking for the structure to take control. And this brings us to the final element on the cover.
The quote.
Yeah, the quote. The designer ensures we don't just view this as an interesting theoretical exercise. They anchor the visual metaphor with a very specific textual warning.
Right down at the bottom.
Right. At the very bottom of the cover, beneath the rigid blue box and the grasping silhouettes, there is a single quote pulled from a review by the Washington Post.
Which is a pretty big endorsement.
Huge.
Yeah.
The quote reads, "Fromm's thought merits the critical attention of all concerned with the human condition and its future."
That phrasing carries an immense amount of weight.
It's a massive claim to put on the cover of a book.
It really is.
The reviewer didn't call it a fascinating psychological study or a brilliant look at modern anxiety. They chose the phrase, "the human condition and its future."
Right.
If we analyze the mechanics of those specific words, the reviewer is arguing that the urge to escape our own freedom isn't just like a cultural quirk or some historical anomaly.
No, not at all.
They are diagnosing it as an underlying structural flaw in our psychology.
Yeah, because the term human condition refers to the inescapable realities and inherent flaws of simply being a human being.
It's universal.
Exactly. It implies something permanent. It's basically the base code of our operating system.
I love that analogy.
By elevating Fromm's thought to a matter of the human condition, the quote is stating that this terrifying urge to surrender our autonomy is a permanent vulnerability.
It's a glitch in the hardware that we are constantly at risk of triggering.
Yes, a permanent glitch.
And that seamlessly connects to the second half of the quote and its future.
Right. By linking this psychological tendency to the future of humanity, the quote essentially functions as an existential warning.
It raises the stakes completely.
It ties the paradox of the title and the chaotic surrender of the imagery into a cohesive argument about societal survival.
Because if this urge to give up our freedom is a permanent part of the human condition, it means that democracy, autonomy, and individual liberty are not our natural resting states.
That is the terrifying part.
Yeah, they are incredibly fragile constructs that we have to actively fight to maintain because our deep-seated biological instinct is actually pushing us toward the comfort of giving up control.
The warning is clear. If we do not critically examine our own terrifying urge to run from the burden of our choices,
Right.
and if we fail to recognize our inherent tendency to lose ourselves in a grasping, directionless mob just to soothe that anxiety, then the future of humanity is fundamentally at risk. I mean, a society made up of individuals who are secretly terrified of their own freedom is a society that will eventually welcome an authoritarian to relieve them of that burden.
It's incredible how much density is packed into such a small space on this cover.
It's a masterpiece of design.
It really is. From just a few carefully chosen words and a background texture, we've unpacked an entire diagnosis of human vulnerability.
It's a masterclass in visual synthesis.
Yeah.
I mean, the designer doesn't just summarize the book. They force you to experience the psychological tension of the argument before you even turn the first page.
You feel the paradox.
Exactly. You feel the paradox, you see the mechanism of the escape, and you are hit with the existential stakes right away.
So let's synthesize the journey we've taken with the single artifact today.
Let's do it.
We started with the title, Escape from Freedom, that shattered our basic assumptions, forcing us to recognize that absolute liberation isn't just a joy. It's a terrifying void of responsibility that induces profound anxiety. Then we examine the suffocating imagery of those overlapping, faceless black and gold hands. We realized they weren't drowning victims, but a chilling visualization of humans voluntarily surrendering their individuality.
Seeking that numbing comfort of a mob.
Exactly, to escape the burden of choice. And finally, we looked at a dire warning from a major publication that elevated this psychological instinct into a permanent existential threat to the very future of the human condition.
It's a lot to process.
It really is. It is
Yeah.
a profound, terrifying truth about our secret desire to surrender autonomy, and it's all captured on a single piece of cardboard.
And, understanding that truth shouldn't remain a purely abstract intellectual exercise.
No, definitely not.
The value of decoding an artifact like this is using it as a lens to examine the mechanics of our own behavior.
Turn the lens inward. So
Yeah.
how does this play out for the listener?
Well, think about the core premise. The crushing anxiety of absolute choice and the relief of surrendering it. I invite you, listening right now, to examine the architecture of your own daily life.
That's a great exercise.
We live in an era characterized by an unprecedented avalanche of choices. From massive decisions about career paths and moral frameworks, down to the granular choices of what media to consume, what products to buy, what opinions to hold.
It's exhausting.
It is. So, where in your life do you feel a secret, perhaps unacknowledged sense of relief when a system makes a difficult decision for you?
That brings it right back to the stop sign we started with. We love the stop sign because it makes the choice for us.
Yes. Consider the subtle, everyday mechanisms of your own escape from freedom. When an algorithm perfectly curates your media feed so you never have to actively search for conflicting information, is that convenience or is that surrendering your intellectual autonomy to a machine?
Oh, that is a tough question to answer.
Right. Or when you find yourself adopting the prevailing opinion of your social circle or a vocal online crowd, are you doing so out of genuine conviction or simply because the burden of forming and defending your own independent thought feels too isolating?
We might not be joining literal mobs in the street, but we find micro ways to let our feet leave the floor every single day.
Exactly.
We let the momentum of the digital crowd carry us because standing still and making our own choices is just too exhausting.
The desire to blend into the silhouettes is always there. The next time you feel the urge to let the crowd decide, or the next time you feel relief when your choices are restricted, it's worth asking yourself if you are simply trying to escape the weight of your own freedom.
That is a lingering thought that will completely change how we interact with the world around us. Thank you for taking this incredibly unique journey with us today. Keep questioning the design of the world, keep examining the mechanics of your own choices, and we will catch you on the next deep dive.